Namaskar. Expansion and commercialization of agriculture. Under the British, the condition of the Indian peasants deteriorated steadily. After obtaining the Diwani of Bihar, Bengal, and Orissa, the Englishmen introduced different land revenue policies. Ulti- their, their ultimate aim was the appropriation of maximum revenues from the Indian zamindars and peasants. The exaction of exorbitant rents by the government oppressed the peasants heavily. In order to meet the high demand of revenue, the peasants perpetually remained indebted to the local moneylenders. Many of them lost their lands to these greedy moneylenders for the inability to pay back the borrowed amount. The policy of the policy of commercialization of agriculture by the British encouraged market-oriented production of cash crops such as opium, tea, coffee, sugar, jute, and indigo. Indian peasants were forced to grow these cash crops that exploited the fertility of the land, and no other crop could be grown on it. The growth of minimum of subsistence crops led to the deterioration and impoverishment of the Indian agriculture and the cultivators. The peasants were suppressed under triple burden of the government landlords and the moneylenders. His subsistence base was completely ruined by the agrarian policies of the British government. The lack of attention in the development of agriculture and in use of new equipments and methods on the part of the British government also ruined Indian agriculture. Land rights and land settlements. Broadly speaking, the English adopted three types of land tenures in India: the Jamindari tenure, the Mahalwari tenure, and the Rohitwari tenure. The permanent Jamindari settlements. The Jamindari system. The Jamindari system was a creation of the British rule, and many non-economic considerations entered into its acceptance. The system was known by different names like Jagirdari, Malguzari, Peshwadari, etc. Under the permanent settlement system, the state's land revenue demand was settled once for all, while in other Jamindari tracts the land revenue was divided after a fixed number of years, ranging from 10 to 40 years. This was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in 1793 on the recommendation of Sir John Shore, the president of the Board of Revenue. Under the Jamindari system, the Jamindar was recognized as the owner who could mortgage, bequeath, and sell the land. The state held the Jamindar responsible for the payment of land revenue, and in default thereof, the land could be confiscated and sold out. A snag in the permanent settlement of Bengal was that while the state's land revenue demand was fixed, that is, state demand was fixed at 89% of the rental, leaving only 11% with the Jamindar. The rent to be realized by the landlord from the cultivator was left unsettled and unspecified. This resulted in rack renting and frequent ejections of tenants from their traditional holdings. The Bengal Rent Acts of 1859 and 1885 provided some relief to cultivators. The permanent the permanent Jamindari settlements were made in Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, Banaras divisions of UP, northern Carnatic, and roughly covered 19% of the total area of British India. The Rohitwari system. Under this system, every registered holders of land was recognized as the proprietor of land and was held responsible for direct payment of land revenue to the state. He had the right to sublet his land holdings to transfer, mortgage, or sell it. He was not evicted from his holdings by the government so long as he paid the state demand of land revenue in Madras Presidency. The first land revenue settlements were made in the Bara Mahal districts after its acquisition by the company in 1792. Captain Reed, assisted by Thomas Munro, fixed the state demand on the basis of 50% of the estimated produce of the field, which worked out to be more than the whole economic rent. Thomas Munro, Governor 1820 to 1827, extended the Rohitwari system to all parts of the province except the permanent except the permanently settled except the permanently settled area except the permanently settled areas on the basis of one third of the gross produce of the holdings, which too absorbed nearly the whole of the economic rental. The state demand was fixed in money and had no connection with the actual yield of the holding or the prevailing prices in the market. In 1885, an extensive survey and settlement plan was decided on the basis of 30% of the gross produce. Actual work began in 1861 in Bombay Presidency. The company decided in favor of the Rohitwari system with a view to the elimination of landlords or village communities which could intercept their profits. Thus, the Rohitwari settlement were made in major portions of Bombay and Madras presidencies, in Assam and some other parts of British India, covering roughly 51% of the area. The Mahalwari system. Under this system, the unit of revenue settlement by the village or the Mahan, that is the state. The village has land belong jointly to the village community. Is technically the body of shares were co-sharers who were jointly responsible. The village land belonged jointly to the village community, technically the body of co-sharers who were jointly responsible for payment of land revenue through individual responsibility was also there. The Mahalwari tenures were introduced in major portions of UP, the central provinces, the Punjab with variations, and covered nearly 30% of the area. Regulation 7 of 1822 gave legal sanctions to the recommendation of Walt Mackenzie, who recorded his mint in 1819, emphasizing the existence of village communities in North India. He recommended a survey of land, preparation of records of rights in land, settlement of land revenue demand, village by village or mahal by mahal, and collection of land revenue through the village handman or lambardar. Thus the land revenue settlements were made on the basis of 80% of rental value payable by the zamindar in cases where estates were held by cultivators in common tenancy. The state demand was allowed to be fixed at 95% of the rental. The system broke down because of the excessive state demand and hardness in its working in collection of land revenue. Regulation 9 of 1833 provided for simplification of the procedure for preparing estimates of produce and of rents, introduction of the system of fixing average rents for different classes of soil. The new scheme worked under the supervision of Martin Bird, remembered as the father of land settlements in northern India. The state demand was fixed at 66% of the rental value, and the settlement was made for 30 years. The settlement work out under the scheme began in 1833 and was completed under the administration of James Thomson. Under the revised Saharanpur rules of 1855, the state demand was limited to 50% of the rental value. Rural indebtedness, high revenue demand led to the devastation, as it led to the poverty and the deterioration of agriculture in 19th century. It forced the peasant to fall into the clutches of the moneylenders. If the peasant could not pay the money, his land was cut off. Gradually, more land passed into the hands of moneylenders, merchants, rich peasants, and other moneyed classes. The growing commercialization also helped the moneylender merchant to exploit the cultivator. The peasant was forced to sell his produce just after the harvest and at whatever price he could get, as he had to meet in time the demands of the government. The landlords and the moneylender. Added to the above factors was the increase of population pressure on agriculture weighted on the peasants heavily. धन्यवाद. Thank you so much.